Sophia whispered it so softly, Jennifer almost missed it. "Mommy, if I sit down, my private part will hurt." And at that family dinner, they rolled their eyes and called Sophia dramatic. But Jennifer saw how her daughter flinched when anyone brushed her shoulder, how she slept in sneakers like she was ready to run. They thought blood ties could bury the truth. Then Jennifer found Sophia's drawing, and her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone dialing 911. What happened next tore open everything she believed about family. Thanksgiving evening was never meant to feel like a courtroom. Yet the second Jennifer and Sophia stepped onto Mama's porch, she felt a verdict hanging in the air. The porch light flickered, catching a swirl of frost, and for one breath, she wondered if turning around would hurt less than ringing the bell. But Sophia, clutching her stuffed raccoon, whispered, "It smells like pie in there, Mommy." And that was reason enough to walk inside. Years had passed since Jennifer had brought a casserole to that house. The wallpaper was still the same pale yellow, still curling at the corners. But everything felt smaller and sharper, like the walls had listened to too many secrets and turned mean. Mama's hug was quick. Her perfume smelled powdery, sweet and distant. "You look tired, Jennifer." "Long drive?" she asked. What she meant was, "Don't start anything." Her sister Kate was setting the dining room table, crystal glinting under her perfect hair. She gave Jennifer a tight smile, the kind folks give telemarketers before hanging up. Jennifer tried to shrug off the chill. Sophia's eyes darted across the family she barely knew. Uncle Daniel laughed too loudly. Grandma Lucy reminded everyone where to sit. Cousin Thelma chased a gravy boat. Sophia squeezed Jennifer's fingers, an unspoken code for stay close. They gathered around the long cedar table, the same one her daddy had sanded by hand before he passed. A century of blessings had been spoken over that wood, but tonight the grain looked bruised. Sophia was told to join the two younger cousins at the far end. She hesitated, twisting the hem of her sweater. Jennifer nudged her chair out, but Sophia leaned toward her instead. "What's wrong, baby?" Her voice came out thinner than a breath. "Mommy, if I sit down, my private part will hurt." The sentence was too delicate for the room. It shattered anyway. Time slowed. Sounds warped. Jennifer's fork slipped, clanging against the plate. Uncle Daniel barked a short laugh. "Drama runs in that side of the family," he said, waving a buttery roll like a gavel. Mama cleared her throat. "Sophia, manners. Sit up straight, Jennifer. She needs firmer boundaries." Everyone resumed passing dishes, pretending a 6-year-old hadn't just dropped a grenade at the table. Jennifer knelt beside her daughter, her palms suddenly damp. "Sweetheart, does something hurt right now?" Sophia nodded, her tears glassy but silent. Jennifer's pulse rattled in her ears. "We're going to the bathroom, okay?" she murmured. Nobody offered help. Plates clinked. Someone blessed the cranberry sauce. She guided Sophia down the hallway, feeling every stare prick her back like tacks. Behind the locked bathroom door, the smell of lavender soap didn't cover her fear. Sophia flinched when Jennifer helped her step out of her tights. There, along the crease of tender skin, she saw redness no child gets from a playground. A metallic taste filled Jennifer's mouth. She had spent 2 years volunteering at a women's shelter. She knew this color. She knew this flinch. Knowing didn't make it easier when it was her own child. Sophia's eyes searched hers. "Did I do something bad?" "No, baby. You did nothing wrong." Jennifer pulled her close, counting her daughter's breaths until her own calmed down. Back in the hallway, she met Mama's glare. "Is this necessary?" Mama hissed. "Dinner's getting cold. Sophia isn't well." "We're stepping out," Jennifer said, her voice too calm even for herself. Kate rolled her eyes so hard Jennifer worried they might stick. Daniel smirked and sipped his wine. Jennifer tucked Sophia into the guest room, handing her the raccoon. "Squeeze him if you get scared. I'll be right outside." Sophia nodded, her cheeks burning with shame a child should never carry. The night air bit at Jennifer as she stepped onto the porch. Her hand shook as she dialed, but she forced herself not to cry. Dispatchers needed clarity, not tears. When the operator answered, the words tasted like rust. "Please send someone," she managed, staring at the golden rectangle of dining room light where her family still laughed without them. "I think something's been happening to my daughter." Her plea to the dispatcher still rang in her ears when the rumble of engines broke the quiet street. Blue lights bounced off Mama's shutters like restless fireflies. Jennifer stood on the porch, gripping her elbows, coatless in the November cold, refusing to step back inside until help crossed that threshold. The first cruiser eased to the curb, followed by an ambulance. Two officers climbed the steps, hats in hand, scanning the house like danger might leap from the rose bushes. A female EMT hoisted a red bag over her shoulder and met Jennifer's gaze. She nodded toward the door. The woman understood without needing words. Mama yanked the door open before anyone could knock. Her eyebrows lifted. Did someone pass out? Jennifer, what have you done? Jennifer could barely whisper. My daughter needs a medical exam. She's in the guest room. Mama's mouth twitched, caught between confusion and irritation, but she stepped aside. The smell of turkey and sage hit everyone as they filed in. The living room erupted the moment uniforms appeared. Kate hurried over, heels clicking against the hardwood floor. You're making a scene, she hissed, her jaw so tight it trembled. Behind her, Daniel shook his head like a disappointed coach. See what happens when unstable people become parents, he muttered to no one in particular. Jennifer stared straight through him, refusing to let the insult land. The EMT knelt beside Sophia, who sat cross-legged on the bed, hugging her raccoon. She spoke softly, asking permission to check. Sophia bit her lip, then nodded. They disappeared into the adjoining bathroom while an officer waited outside with folded arms. In the hall, relatives formed a half circle, peppering Jennifer with questions. Is she sick? Did she fall? Is this about her acting up at supper? She answered none of them. Her eyes stayed on that narrow door, willing it to open, dreading it would. Minutes dragged. The bedroom clock ticked so loudly it felt like it was blaming her. At last, the EMT came out, her face pale. She motioned Jennifer toward the kitchen, away from the others. Her voice was barely more than a breath. She confirmed there had been touching, repeatedly. She glanced behind her. Your daughter named someone. Jennifer's knees almost gave out, but she held herself up by gripping the counter. Who? There was a pause. Your brother-in-law. The world tilted, then steadied into something colder. Rage flashed through her so fast her vision blurred. She took a breath until her ribs ached, forcing herself to stay on her feet. Thank you, she managed. Please stay with her. When the officers turned toward Daniel, chaos bloomed. Mama stepped in their way. This is ridiculous. Daniel would never. Kate grabbed Jennifer's sleeve. You're tearing this family apart. Daniel tried on his best wounded face. I didn't do anything. The kid's confused. The tallest officer stayed calm, reading Daniel his rights over the noise. The handcuffs clicked, metal on bone. That sharp, cold sound. Grandma Lucy covered her mouth, eyes wide. Cousin Thelma started to cry. Through it all, Sophia peeked from the bedroom door, cheeks pink and blotchy. Jennifer rushed to her, kneeling until they were face to face. You did the right thing, she said softly, brushing hair from Sophia's forehead. Mommy believes you. You're safe now. Sophia's fingers curled into Jennifer's palm. I was scared to tell, she whispered. I know, Jennifer replied, swallowing a hard lump in her throat. But you're not alone anymore. Daniel was led down the hallway, hands cuffed. When the door opened, cold air swept in, carrying the smell of Thanksgiving with it. He gave Jennifer a final glare, part threat, part plea, before the officers walked him out into the flashing lights. Mama stood at the doorway, one hand on the frame. She didn't look at her son-in-law. She stared at Jennifer. I'll never forgive you for this, she said, each word cold and sharp. Her words were still echoing when the patrol car pulled away. Jennifer didn't respond. She focused on buckling Sophia into the back seat of the ambulance for the short ride to the children's hospital. An EMT handed her a pamphlet on trauma response, but her hands shook so badly the words blurred. By the time she gave a statement at the police station and got back to their duplex, dawn had dusted the sky. 7 days had passed since that night. No one in the family had called, sent a text, or even reacted to Jennifer's social media post explaining Sophia's absence from school. When she tried calling Mama, the number came up blocked. Kate's voicemail was full. Pastor Larry left one sugary message about letting grace do its work. Then he gently suggested she stop attending the women's group until the dust settled. Dust. As if her daughter's pain was just something to wipe away. Inside their little rental, the silence didn't feel peaceful. It paced. The refrigerator buzzed louder. The floors creaked more. Some mornings, Jennifer found herself checking the locks twice, then once more before waking Sophia for school. Sophia still climbed into her bed at night, her fingers hooked into Jennifer's sleeve like she was afraid she might slip away. When Jennifer asked if she had dreams, Sophia only shrugged. On Tuesday, she sat cross-legged at the kitchen table, staring at her wooden chair like it was a trap. "Is it okay to sit now?" she whispered. Jennifer forced a smile. "Yes, sweetheart. Here, I'll put a pillow." Sophia sat like a sparrow, stiff and careful, and ate her cereal without looking up. On Wednesday, halfway through paperwork at the office, the phone rang. The caller ID read Harmony Elementary. Jennifer's heart skipped. "Miss Duncan, this is Mrs. Cynthia, Sophia's teacher. Nothing urgent. She's fine, but I'd appreciate it if you could come in this afternoon." Her voice carried something underneath. Gentle but serious. That tone people use when they don't want to scare you. "It's about a drawing Sophia made during center time. I believe it relates to what happened." The rest of the day moved like wet fabric dragging at her limbs. At 3:30, she parked outside the school, her lungs too tight for even October's cool air. Walking the hallway, she passed bulletin boards full of stick turkeys and "I'm thankful for" lists. Normal childhood. For a second, she envied the parents whose biggest worry was gluten in the cafeteria. Mrs. Cynthia greeted her with a flat expression and gestured to the desk. Beside her lay a sheet of red construction paper. "She said I could show you," the teacher said gently, sliding it forward. Crayon strokes showed a chair, Jennifer's mother's antique dining chair. But this one had sharp spikes drawn on the seat, with red lines dripping down. Above it, a stick girl cried huge blue tears. To the side, a dark scribble with jagged teeth loomed nearby. Jennifer's throat closed. She said, "This is Grandma's chair." Her exact words, Mrs. Cynthia murmured. "And that it hurt." She folded her hands. "I'm mandated to report." The counselor already called Child Protective Services. Guilt slammed Jennifer so hard she grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself. How many Thanksgiving dinners had she praised Sophia for sitting nicely, while that cursed chair burned itself into her memory. She took slow breaths, thanked the teacher, and promised to cooperate. That evening, CPS called. The caseworker was polite but practiced. They requested medical notes and the police file. Jennifer complied, sending the documents while eating reheated mac and cheese. As the files uploaded, Sophia colored quietly beside her. Jennifer noticed an old photo album open on the coffee table. Mama's Christmas party from last year. Sophia had stuck a neon sticker over Uncle Jake's face. He was the bachelor brother who always brought magic tricks and candy. Something inside Jennifer twisted. When bedtime came, she read Goodnight Moon, added a verse from Sophia's favorite hymn, and tucked her in tight. The nightlight's candle-shaped bulb painted soft shadows on the wall. Jennifer stroked her hair until her eyelids started to close. "Mommy," Sophia whispered faintly. "Yes, baby. You promised I never have to go back there." "I meant it. Never again." Sophia nodded, her lashes trembling. Then, just before sleep pulled her under, she murmured, "There's something I didn't tell you yet about the game he played with me." Jennifer's heart jumped. "We can talk in the morning, okay?" Sophia gave a tiny sleepy yes, already drifting off. Jennifer kissed her forehead. The taste of salt on her lips could have been her daughter's, or her own. As Jennifer closed the door, the furnace kicked on, rattling the vents like distant footsteps. She stood in the hallway hugging herself, her ears ringing with that single word, game. She knew the fight was far from over. Sophia's confession stayed in the room like smoke, even after she drifted into sleep. Jennifer sat on the edge of the mattress, watching the rise and fall of her daughter's chest until the rhythm calmed her. Only then did she gather the drawings, switch off the lamp, and move to the living room, where the night felt too big. Near midnight, Sophia woke again, patting down the hall in her socks. "I can't sleep unless you hold me," she whispered. Jennifer carried her back to the bedroom, settled into the rocking chair, and wrapped a quilt around them both. That was when the words came, soft as moth wings. "Uncle Daniel liked the quiet game," Sophia began. "If I sat very still and didn't make a sound, he said I was a winner." Jennifer kept her voice calm. "What happened if you moved?" "He'd press my legs down. Sometimes he pinched. And if I cried, I had to start over." Sophia's small fingers twisted the edge of the quilt. "He said good girls don't fidget." Jennifer's stomach turned. Moonlight crawled across the floorboards in pale stripes. "Did anyone else know about this game?" Sophia hesitated, then nodded. "Grandma saw once. She said I was being difficult." When Sophia finally fell asleep, Jennifer's body was still full of adrenaline with nowhere to put it. She crept to the bathroom, closed the door, and let the sobs out into a hand towel. Scenes played again in her mind. Her in the kitchen refilling tea, Daniel in the dining room entertaining the kids. How many times had she smiled from the stove while her child counted silent seconds, just to survive? Guilt tasted like metal. By dawn, she was at the kitchen table writing notes for the caseworker. At 8 o'clock sharp, she called her direct line. Her voice shook only once. Sophia disclosed more abuse last night. Details. Frequency. On the other end, Lisa's tone became firm. We'll schedule a forensic interview this afternoon. Can you bring her to Riverstone Advocacy by 2? There was a pause. Given the escalation, we may arrange emergency protective measures for both of you. Jennifer thanked her, hung up, and exhaled through her teeth. The battle line had moved closer. Riverstone was a renovated ranch house painted calming teal. Toys lined the waiting room, but Sophia ignored them, choosing instead to braid and unbraid her raccoon's tail. Through a one-way mirror, Jennifer watched the interview begin. The therapist introduced herself, offered a juice box, then gently asked about games Sophia played with family. Her daughter's voice came through the speakers, clear, polite, and far too steady for her age. She described the red chair. The spikes she imagined after it hurt her. The rule of silence. Daniel said if I told, Mommy would get taken away. She explained like she was spelling a word. Every sentence felt like a nail. At one point, she lifted her dress hem to show faint bruises the ER had missed. The therapist's eyes shone, but her voice stayed steady with calm words of comfort. 40 minutes later, the session ended. Lisa met Jennifer in a side office, documents in hand. We're opening a formal investigation into Daniel. A temporary restraining order will be filed today, she said. She tapped the papers. Sophia qualifies for trauma-focused counseling. You'll get a schedule. Jennifer felt gratitude and dread twisting together. She signed where she was told, printing her name slowly and clearly so no one could say she hesitated. As they left the center, the sun felt too bright. The cars on the road were too loud. She buckled Sophia in, then sat in the driver's seat. Her fingers gripped the steering wheel tightly. In the rearview mirror, her face looked older than a week ago. Pale, but shaped now by something harder than fear. She whispered to her reflection. They counted on my silence. They forgot who taught me to survive. Back home, Jennifer opened her contacts and scrolled until she found Mary Nathan, an attorney she'd met while volunteering at the shelter. Her thumb hovered over the message icon. Before she could type, a new text appeared on her screen. It was from Kate. Stop this, or we'll take her from you. The message sat on her screen like a stone in her stomach. Her own sister. The same woman who once cried in her arms and said, if anything happens to me, you'll be like Sophia's second mom. Now she was threatening her, using lawyers and custody as weapons. Jennifer's fingers tightened around her phone. Not from fear, but fury. Fury at the silence. The cowardice. The way family turns against truth when it becomes too inconvenient. She didn't reply. She couldn't. Not yet. She just sat in her kitchen, the refrigerator humming behind her. The only sound in the house. Sophia was curled up in the guest room, sleeping like the child she deserved to be. Jennifer looked at the photo taped to her fridge. Sophia at 2 years old. Frosting on her cheeks, Jennifer's arm around her like a shield. She remembered that day. She remembered everything. And she remembered the beginning. The day Sophia was born, she had been there, rushing from work in scrubs and sneakers. Her sister was pale and drugged, barely able to open her eyes. Jennifer had held Sophia first. Tiny and pink, a soft cry escaping her lungs. Her sister had touched her arm. She's yours too, she whispered. Promise me. If I ever lose myself, you'll be her anchor. Jennifer had promised. And she had meant it. That promise echoed through her as she sat in the car outside Amara John's law office the next morning. Amara and Jennifer hadn't spoken in years. But she had been her college roommate. And she had a reputation for fighting hard when it mattered most. Jennifer had texted the night before. By morning, Amara had made room for her. Inside, Amara didn't waste time with small talk. She offered coffee. Jennifer declined. Then sat across from her in a clean, quiet office lined with law books and framed degrees. Tell me everything, Amara said. Jennifer did. Every drawing. Every whisper. Every red flag she'd ignored. Every time she let her sister's words quiet her instincts. When she showed the message, the threat, Amara's face went still. They're testing you, she said quietly. That's what people like this do. They push to see if you'll break. Jennifer looked her in the eyes. I'm not breaking. Amara nodded once. Good. Because the next part gets messy. She explained the legal side of things. Jennifer wasn't Sophia's legal guardian. Technically, her sister still had full parental rights. If she filed for custody, claiming it was a misunderstanding, she might convince a court. But Amara's voice grew sharper. If Sophia is in danger, and you've documented every step, we can push for emergency guardianship. It's not easy, but it's possible. Jennifer swallowed the lump in her throat. What about the rest of the family? What if they side with her? They will, Amara said bluntly. At first, until the truth gets louder. Just then, Jennifer's phone buzzed again. Another message from her sister. Lunch tomorrow? Just us. Let's talk like grown women. Amara narrowed her eyes. That's not a peace offering. That's a trap. I know, Jennifer said, but I'm going. The next afternoon, she parked outside a neutral cafe halfway between their houses. It was a bright, cheerful place. Booths lined the walls, easy to hear, impossible to yell. Kate was already inside, sipping tea like they were just two old friends catching up. Jennifer. She smiled and rose to hug her. Jennifer didn't move. Kate sat back down, pretending not to notice the cold air between them. I just want to clear the air, she began. Sophia's confused. You know how kids are. Imagination and all that. She's always been sensitive. Jennifer didn't speak. Kate sighed, trying to sound soft and motherly. I don't want to ruin our family over this. We've always had each other, haven't we? Then she reached into her purse and slid a thin manila envelope across the table. What's this? Jennifer asked, though she already had a sick feeling in her gut. Just something to consider, Kate said lightly. A compromise. Jennifer opened it. Inside was a draft custody filing. Kate's intent to regain Sophia. Alongside it, a mutual silence agreement. If Jennifer dropped the claims and backed off, they wouldn't pursue legal action. She stared at the papers. Every word felt like a slap. You're trying to trade her trauma for your reputation, Jennifer said flatly. Kate blinked. Jennifer, don't be dramatic. This is about keeping the peace. Jennifer looked her straight in the eye. Is that what he called it too? Keeping the peace while he played that sick game. Kate's lips tightened. You're making this worse. If you keep going, we'll fight back, and we'll win. Jennifer placed the envelope gently on the table. No, she said softly. You've already lost her. The question is, what else are you willing to lose? She didn't wait for a reaction. She left the envelope sitting there like a bomb with the pin pulled, and walked out of the cafe without another word. Outside, the wind had picked up, tugging at her coat. She welcomed the chill. It helped her stay upright. It helped fight back the nausea curling in her stomach. The next morning, Sophia barely spoke. She sat at the kitchen table, her cereal soggy and untouched. Jennifer tried asking about math class, about the art club she used to love, but all she got was a faint nod or a tight little shrug. Her eyes didn't meet Jennifer's. Something was slipping again. Jennifer could feel it, in the way Sophia clutched her backpack with both hands like a shield, in how the spark that had begun to flicker back after the CPS visit was dimming. After Sophia left for school, Jennifer tidied the kitchen, then moved on to the living room. Sophia's bag had been left by the door unzipped. Jennifer reached down to close it and noticed something wedged between two worn spiral notebooks. A thick, crumpled paper balled up like it had been hidden in a hurry. She sat down and flattened it across the table. It was a drawing, crude but deliberate. A little girl sat alone on a bench, her knees apart, red crayon lines drawn in jagged streaks across the area between her waist and her legs. Behind her loomed a taller figure, stick-like with broad shoulders and a face labeled in uneven handwriting. Uncle R. Off to the side were two more stick people, both facing away. Mom. Grandma. They were watching. And doing nothing. Jennifer's breath caught. The paper trembled in her hands. For a long moment, she just sat there, unable to move, unable to think. Then she heard footsteps. Sophia was back. She had forgotten her lunchbox. She froze in the doorway. Her eyes flicked to the paper on the table, then to Jennifer's face. And then she crumpled. I'm sorry, Sophia sobbed, voice high and shaking. I didn't mean to draw it. I didn't know how else to say it. Jennifer went to her without a word, wrapping her arms around Sophia's small frame. Her tears soaked into Jennifer's shirt. You don't ever have to be sorry, she whispered into her hair. You are brave. And you're not alone. I promise you. I believe you. I'm not going anywhere. That afternoon, Jennifer picked Sophia up from school early. She walked into the front office and asked to see the counselor, Miss Agatha, a calm woman in her early 50s with a deep crease between her brows that deepened as she studied the drawing. Sophia sat next to Jennifer, quiet but alert. Miss Agatha adjusted her glasses and looked at Sophia. Sweetheart, she said gently. Did you draw this? Sophia nodded. Miss Agatha didn't say anything else. She simply got up, locked the office door, and returned to her seat. This is going up the chain now. Within the hour, the school filed an additional report with CPS. Jennifer sat in the hallway outside the counselor's office. The school principal, Mr. Andrew, a soft-spoken man she'd barely met, came down and shook her hand. Miss Taylor, he said, whatever you need from us, we'll stand with Sophia. Just tell us how to help. It was the first time since it all began that someone outside her walls had said those words. They drove home in near silence. Sophia stared out the window, her thumb pressed to her lips like a reflex from a younger time. Jennifer didn't push her. She just kept one hand on the wheel and the other lightly resting on Sophia's knee. Dinner was quiet, just soup and crackers. Sophia didn't say much, but she ate. That alone felt like a small victory. Jennifer was rinsing dishes when she heard footsteps again, soft and unsure. Sophia stood in the doorway to her bedroom. Her voice was barely louder than a breath. Can I sleep with you tonight? Jennifer nodded, pulled back the covers, and let her curl beside her. Her small hands gripped the fabric near Jennifer's shoulder. The room was dark, just the faint hum of the heater and the rhythm of their breathing. Then, in a voice so faint Jennifer almost missed it, Sophia asked, Do you think they'll believe me this time? Jennifer turned toward her, smoothing her hair, but didn't answer right away. Because in that moment, she finally understood. Sophia wasn't just scared. She was tired. Jennifer didn't sleep much that night. Sophia curled up beside her, her little hand wrapped around Jennifer's wrist like she might disappear if let go. That whisper still rang in her head. Do you think they'll believe me this time? It cut deeper than anything she had ever heard in a courtroom. Jennifer lay awake long after Sophia's breathing slowed, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many nights her daughter had spent like this before she finally spoke. The next morning, Jennifer was in the kitchen making eggs when her phone vibrated on the counter. It was Miss Agatha, the school counselor. Ms. Green. Her voice came through low and careful. I think you need to come in. Sophia left her school tablet in the reading nook yesterday, and when I opened it to charge it, there was a recording. It sounds like it started by accident. Or maybe not. Either way, I think you'll want to hear it. Miss Agatha didn't explain further. She didn't have to. Jennifer's chest tightened. She told her she'd be there in 20 minutes. Jennifer dropped Sophia off at school herself, kissed her forehead, and promised to see her later. Sophia didn't smile, but her eyes held something different that morning. Not relief, just a quiet kind of watching, like she was measuring the world one reaction at a time. As soon as she was alone in the car, Jennifer parked behind the school library, rolled up the windows, and powered on the tablet Miss Agatha had left for her. She opened the file. For the first few seconds, there was only faint static, the sound of sheets shifting, distant footsteps. Then came the voices. I told you, a woman said, sharp and tired. Don't let her say too much at school. Another voice followed, older, clipped, and colder. She needs to learn. If she keeps flapping her mouth about that man, he'll end up in jail, and then we all lose. Jennifer knew those voices. Sophia's mother. Her grandmother. She didn't even realize she had gripped the steering wheel until her knuckles ached. Then softly, Sophia's little voice broke through. But it hurts. A pause. Then her mother snapped. Then maybe stop acting like a brat. The next sound wasn't words. It was the unmistakable crack of skin meeting skin. Then Sophia's voice, small and breaking. Mommy, please don't let him. The rest was muffled, crying a rustle. Then nothing but silence. Jennifer stared straight ahead, frozen. She couldn't feel her legs. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the tablet. She sat there nearly 10 minutes before she remembered to breathe. Then she did what any woman who'd lived through a courtroom war zone would do. She pulled out her phone, opened the voice memo app, and hit record. She let the tablet replay word for word into the speaker. No enhancements. No editing. Just the raw truth. Then she called Elena Peters, a legal advocate she had worked with back when she volunteered on domestic violence cases. Elena answered on the third ring. Jennifer, it's been a minute. Everything okay? No, Jennifer said flatly. I have a minor under my care. I have a recording. It includes emotional abuse, physical harm, and evidence of coercion to protect a sexual abuser. I need to know what's possible right now. There was no hesitation in Elena's voice. Bring me the audio. We can file an emergency petition for protective custody. That's enough for a judge to issue a restraining order. I'll prep the papers. I'm going to court, Jennifer told her, staring out through the windshield. I'm going to fight like hell. By the time Jennifer got home, Sophia was already there. School had let out early for a staff meeting. She was sitting at the kitchen table, pencils scattered across the surface, working quietly. When she saw Jennifer walk in, she slid a piece of paper across the table and looked up, searching her face. Maybe for permission, maybe for safety. It was a drawing. Another one. This time, it wasn't scary. It showed her standing tall in front of a shadowy figure with red eyes. In one hand, she held a shield. On the shield, in blocky handwriting, she had written, Aunt Jennifer. Jennifer knelt beside her, rested her forehead against Sophia's, and said quietly, This time, no one's going to silence you. That night, Jennifer stayed up printing forms, sorting evidence, and organizing notes. Sophia fell asleep on the couch with her drawing in her lap. Jennifer carried her to bed, tucked her in gently, and left the hallway light on. When morning came, they were out the door before the sun crested the trees. As Jennifer pulled onto the road toward the courthouse, Sophia reached across the console. Her fingers found Jennifer's pinky. She wrapped hers around it and held on. Then, almost too softly to hear, she whispered, Is this what bravery feels like? Jennifer looked over at her, and for the first time, she let the tears come. Sophia's questions still clung to the windshield fog as they eased into the courthouse lot. Jennifer squeezed her pinky back. Bravery feels like breathing when the air is thin, but we'll breathe together. Sophia gave a small nod. The blue cardigan Jennifer had laid out for her was buttoned all the way to the collar. Inside, the marble floors echoed every step. Jennifer could tell Sophia heard it, too. Every click another reminder of how large this building was, how tiny she must have felt. Jennifer knelt, straightened her hair clip, and whispered, Truth isn't rude. It's just loud enough to be heard. Sophia pressed her lips together and followed her past the metal detector. Judge Gregory's courtroom smelled of lemon polish and old paper. Jennifer and Elena took their place at the petitioner's table. Elena slid a reassuring glance her way. Sophia's mother swept in next, her heels puncturing the hush. Beside her stood Grandma Lucy in a charcoal suit. Trailing them was a man Jennifer had never seen, gray blazer, stiff smile, leather briefcase. The bailiff called the room to order. Judge Gregory adjusted his glasses. Ms. Green, you're requesting emergency guardianship. Miss Rollins, you filed a counter-petition for a full custody evaluation and provided expert testimony. He looked at the stranger. Sophia's mother rose. Yes, Your Honor. We've brought Dr. Jerry Milo, licensed therapist, to address concerns about Jennifer's mental stability and the possibility she's influencing the child. Her sister's lawyer slid a document forward. The words obsessive savior complex were bolded. Jennifer felt Elena's elbow nudge hers. Stay calm. Dr. Milo took the stand. His voice oozed certainty. I have reviewed Ms. Duncan's social media posts, volunteer history, and recent behavior. Patterns indicate a fixation on rescuing others, often projecting unresolved trauma. He shuffled papers theatrically. Children in her care may adopt these narratives. Jennifer kept her face neutral, but inside a fuse hissed. Elena scribbled on a legal pad, not licensed in Kentucky, and slid it beneath Jennifer's fingertips. When it was their turn, Elena stood. Your Honor, we submit Exhibit A. She played the recording from Sophia's tablet. The room fell into a vacuum. Sophia's small voice trembled. But it hurts. Then came the cold reply from her mother, the slap, the whimper. Somewhere behind Jennifer, a chair creaked and stopped. Judge Gregory's jaw set. Elena Peters continued. Exhibit B. Disciplinary documentation from the Nevada Board of Behavioral Health. Dr. Milo was reprimanded and his license suspended for unethical diagnosis. She turned, meeting his eyes. Sir, are you currently licensed in this state? Dr. Milo's mouth opened, then closed. My application is pending. Thank you, Elena said. No further questions. The judge tapped his gavel once. I've heard enough. Temporary emergency custody is granted to Jennifer Duncan, effective immediately. A criminal investigation into Daniel Rollins remains active. Furthermore, the court issues a no-contact order against Ms. Rollins and Mrs. Green pending review. Jennifer's sister's lips parted, stunned silence replacing her practiced calm. Grandma Lucy reached for her arm, but she pulled away, eyes burning. Outside the courtroom, sunlight spilled through tall windows. Sophia climbed onto the bench beside Jennifer, leaning into her side. Reporters loitered near the security desk, but no one approached. For a rare moment, the hallway felt private. Sophia tucked her head under Jennifer's chin. "Can I go home now?" she asked, voice small but steady. Jennifer kissed her hair. "We're building a new one just for you." Sophia's question lingered as they left the courthouse. Her head rested on Jennifer's shoulder, the afternoon sun warming the marble steps. 2 weeks later, that moment still glowed in Jennifer's memory like a porch light guiding them home. The new rental was small, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath. But every wall had fresh paint, and every door swung open without a key. Each morning, she woke to the smell of maple syrup and the sound of Sophia's bare feet slapping against the hardwood. Sophia lined her sneakers by the welcome mat, lace bows neatly double-knotted. It was the first thing she did when she came inside. Proof she no longer expected to be whisked away without warning. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, they drove to art therapy. On the other days, Sophia attended school half-time, easing back into spelling tests and jungle gym politics. In the evenings, they planted seeds in the backyard, basil, marigolds, and 3 tiny sunflower starts. Sophia said the flowers made the fence look happier. One quiet Thursday, she came out of her room holding a sheet of thick paper. Numbers were scrawled across the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, like a list. Beside each number was a stick figure. The first was Jennifer, her hair scribbled in brown loops. The second was Sophia, smiling. The third was Grandpa, with gray curls and a guitar in hand. The fourth figure stood apart, inside a rectangle like a shadow box. Sharp eyebrows, an angry mouth, and the label, Uncle Jake. Jennifer froze. Uncle Jake, her sister's bachelor brother, hadn't crossed her mind since last Christmas, when he performed magic tricks with coins behind Sophia's ear. He was never in the initial reports, never on CPS's radar. "Honey," Jennifer asked, keeping her voice steady, "why is Uncle Jake in a box?" Sophia's eyes dropped. "That's my room at Grandma's. He used to come in after the game." She watched Jennifer carefully, measuring her reaction. "I didn't want to make trouble." A slow throb started behind Jennifer's temples. She snapped a quick photo of the drawing and emailed it to Detective Anderson before the tremor in her hands spread. He called within minutes, voice clipped. "We missed him. I'm sending a team to interview other children who attended those family dinners." 5 days later, Detective Anderson called again. Uncle Jake was in custody, charged after 2 other minors confirmed Sophia's description. Her sister gave a statement. She said she had felt something was off but didn't press him, because family comes first. That night, Jennifer found Sophia on the patio, watering the sunflower starts with a plastic jug. She was humming under her breath, off-key fearless. Jennifer sat beside the planter box and watched the soil darken beneath the trickling water. "They grow slow," Sophia told her, her toes wiggling in the fresh dirt. "But they're big when they're ready." Jennifer tugged the brim of her straw hat. "Just like you." The mailbox squeaked the next day. Inside was a cream envelope addressed in her mother's handwriting. Jennifer's pulse fluttered as she tore it open. "Jennifer, I was wrong. I wanted to believe the stories were lies because the truth hurt more. I will testify. I'm sorry I let silence speak for me. Mom." She read it aloud at the kitchen table while Sophia colored a castle. When she finished, Sophia set down her crayon. "I want to stay here," she said simply. Jennifer smoothed the letter flat. "You will." Later, after the dishes were stacked and the nightlight glowed, Sophia crawled onto the couch beside her. They shared banana pancakes left over from breakfast, Sophia's idea of dessert. She leaned her head on Jennifer's arm and sighed, a sound so light it floated. Jennifer thought back to every siren, every slammed door, every sleepless night counting Sophia's breaths. She used to believe rescue was dramatic, flashers, lawyers, a single decisive moment. But real rescue was quieter. A child sleeping through the night. A shoe rack by the door. Pancakes for dinner, because nobody's timing the meal. Sophia yawned, pushing her plate aside. Does this mean I'm safe now? Jennifer pulled the knitted blanket over them both and kissed the top of Sophia's head. No, baby, she said, her heartbeat full of something that finally felt like peace. It means you're home.